How was doing the show without me for once?
It went very well, Derek.
A little too well.
Not what do you mean a little too well?
No, dude. I have a lot of respect for Ryan Mauser. Our paths didn't cross too much, I want to say, in 95.7, but yeah, dude. I mean, the one thing I was disappointed on, the man obviously knows his Seahawks, and he could have got more intel on Pete and Gino.
Oh, yeah, I guess. I don't know. It was more baseball.
Yeah,
really.
It was.
And also I had to leave.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I had to dip. I had to get out after like an hour, and we went on for an hour 10, and I realized I hadn't asked any training camp stuff. But if you do want to hear his thoughts on that, as you heard, and as I'm sure a lot of the people in the chat heard, he does have his own podcast, The South End Zone, which goes, I believe, every Tuesday and Friday. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong there. And he hosts it with a guy who's either from Tennessee or Alabama. He's not sure.
I got that. Yeah, for the podcast audience, I guess Steven didn't want to post a podcast of the last one. So
I didn't know how.
I gave you all the login info. I emailed it to you.
Oh, you did, didn't you?
Yeah, it's all good. Last podcast, if you missed it, there's a YouTube-only version of Steven and Ryan Mauser. Did a fantastic job talking about baseball and the latest training camp storylines. But we're back on YouTube. Just your opinion, man. Steven Langford, Derek Papa. Yes, Steven.
And I will say that episode is rather dated now because the Giants have won 2 in a row and they look like a different team after that pod.
How much of a different team?
One that hits, Derek.
Yeah, but the thing is, and as I was saying today, and I don't want to go on and on about it, it's just consistency. So let's see what happens this weekend against the Mets. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, but it's not going to age well when we talk about how the lineup hasn't been producing, and then someone goes back and listens to it after they just outscored the Braves 18-3 in the last 2 games. So a lot of that was. But you know what? I'll say this, Derek. I know we're probably not going to talk much baseball, but
God forbid.
I think this trade deadline. I think the conclusion that we came to is, well, for one, they do not need to fire Bob Melvin midseason. Like that's just not going to help anybody. You're not the White Sox. You're not the Rockies. You're not a team that's in despair. You're a team that's still contending. The numbers still reflect that, even though the Giants haven't been the best team, they're still right there. You don't fire a manager in that situation. And then number 2 is with the trade deadline coming up, it just seems like with all these reports that the Giants are not going to be major players in this. We're seeing a lot of how they're just going to make some small, potentially significant moves, nothing major. But if Buster Posey does pull one off like he did with Devers, even though Devers is his quote unquote big trade that he's going to make, well, who knows? What if he makes 2? What if he does something drastic that's just unforeseen? Elliot Ramos is probably due for an extension soon. What do they do with him? He hasn't been playing that well in left field this year. The catcher, Patrick Bailey, I know Posey has shown patience with him, but if you can get a better offensive bat, if you can get a better bat and a guy who's decent defensively, do you maybe make that trade? Like, I don't know. There's a lot of options on the table, but it does sound like they're just going to not stand pat, but there's not going to be anything earth-shattering going into the deadline.
Yeah, somebody today during Dirty Work with me and Cope suggested Ronald Acuna, and I was like, I don't know if they're going to get that done. Like that, like the Braves would have to be stupid to give him up. If I were the Giants, I would, pretty much, with the exception of Logan Webb and a few other players, I'm like, by all means, you could take him. But I don't think they're going to pull off a Rafael Devers-like trade. But Ronald Acuna, how long is he signed with them?
Come on. Like what?
Exactly.
What?
Exactly.
No, like the Braves, people forget the trade deadline isn't just for the teams that are out of contention. It's also for the teams that feel like they're rebuilding. I have a feeling the Braves feel like this season is just an exception. They still if today or this series was any indication, they still have a very talented lineup on paper. And for whatever reason, they just hadn't put it together to start the year, and it's kind of trickled into the regular season. So yeah, I Acuna Matata?
No worries on that trade. That's not going to happen. And I'm with you, Steven. I don't think there's going to be anything monumental, but I think Buster's going to add a arm and a bat because they definitely need to add another starting pitcher with Hayden Birdsong going down to the minors.
No doubt.
They only have 4 on the roster right now. We got
No
plenty
doubt.
of time before the trade deadline that happens a week from tomorrow. And I know people don't like the offseason football conversation. Actually, you know what? That's a lie. A lot of people do, but some people in this chat don't. But you know what? I think it's appropriate because we're at that time right now. It is training camp time. All 32 teams are at training camp. So no speculation, Ernie and AJ Cruz. We're just going to discuss the facts. And, we haven't talked Raiders in a while. So I'm sorry if you don't like that. But there's, a Raider demographic that listens to this podcast. So we're going to talk a little Raiders and Niners and other things that are going on with training camp. We'll also talk about what's going on with the state of late night television.
Oh, you want to
The
start out with
firing
that?
of Stephen
Wow,
Colbert
going
was
hot.
shocking. Yeah, we're going all over the place. And we'll also talk about the passing of the Prince of Darkness. Rest in peace to Ozzy Osbourne, who passed away at the age of 76 yesterday. So we'll discuss that. But Steven, I was on a boat, like Lonely Island, on Sunday. Didn't get severely sunburned, but a little toasty on my back and my shoulders. And I did apply enough sunscreen, but definitely felt it the next day. When you're in the water and you feel it on your shoulders before you actually go home and check it out. It was rough, but I managed to get through it and had a good time in Austin. From Florida, my trip from Florida to Texas, and had a good time.
Sweat a lot?
Yeah, it was sweaty. It was swampy. I discussed this on the show. Dude, I don't know what it is with the airport at Fort Lauderdale, but every time I go through TSA, I'm always wearing basketball shorts, and it's hot as shit in Florida. So I go through TSA, every other airport, completely fine, no issues. And let me know if I'm coming in good right now because I could tell my Wi-Fi, as usual, is looking pretty finicky. Is it fine right now, or am I breaking up?
It's a little splotchy, I'd say. Yeah, there's definitely a delay.
Well, hopefully it resets here. Yeah, it sounds like it. But yeah, basically, every time I go through TSA, there are issues where they have to check the old groin out, and they ask me, do I want to go behind a curtain and look at it and everything? And I'm like, nope, let's just do it here because I need to get to my flight. And I asked the guy, hey, what's the deal here? Every time I go through TSA, they have to check my private area. What's going on here? And the guy's like, well, we check for anomalies. And I'm like, well, what does that mean with this? And he's like, well, I can give you the definition of an anomaly. I'm like, you don't need to. It's just like, am I swampy down there? Like, what's the reason why every time you need to check me out? So that's what happened while I was going to Texas, which was pretty fun.
Derek, I mean, I'm not trying to typecast you here, but you do look like, say, if there was some sort of heist, that you would be the computer guy who's sitting in baggage claim the entire time trying to hack into the airport's mainframe.
Say it again. Sorry. My internet's as usual. Sorry. Go ahead, Steven.
It's all good. I said I'm not trying to typecast you, but you look like the type that would be involved in some form of an airport heist or an airplane heist. And you'd just be sitting in an empty gate the entire time trying to hack into the airport's mainframe, control their security systems.
I give off that vibe like I'm going to hack into the mainframe of an airport.
Just a regular guy, Derek. You never know. You never know what's in those glasses.
Yeah, I don't know if I give off that vibe. I guess I'm just a swampy man, so they detect moisture in that area. And then on my way from Texas,
groin every time.
Go ahead.
They just check your groin every time.
Yeah,
it's not normal,
dude. I'm not even kidding. Like every time I leave my mom's place to go to back home, Fort Lauderdale, they it never through no issues. For whatever reason, when I go from Fort Lauderdale, they have to pat down that area.
Maybe they just like you down there. Are you on some sort of hit list?
Yeah.
Like a groin list?
I guess they're that impressed. I don't even know. But the fact they said anomaly, I was like, that doesn't make me feel very good. And then leaving Texas. So remember, I was telling you I was going through all the issues of um, getting my real ID and my passport, and that was a pain in its ass in itself. But then leaving Austin, Texas at 4 o'clock in the morning for a 6 o'clock flight. I guess I got the date wrong on my reservation by one day when it comes to my birthday, and I had to go through the whole thing again, TSA, and get my, go to the front desk of United Airlines, have them check out everything with my flight. It was a huge pain in the ass. I will also say the TSA guy, he could have just been really cool about it and been like, you're off by one day. Instead, he made me go through the whole process again because he has to be right, which I appreciate that because, TSA, it's good that they check everything, but it was a major inconvenience and definitely stopped my heart for a little bit of time at 6 a.m.
So you thought you booked the wrong flight or on the wrong day?
Say again. Sorry. You know what? I may have to come back in here.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, restart
Apologies.
the Wi-Fi.
First day back, and this is what's going on. Hang on, guys.
Yeah. Restart it. So anyway, gentlemen, Derek always seems to have problems with his flight. I don't know what it is. That's weird. Is it not getting searched in the groin area? In the groin area? I don't think I've ever got searched there. Although I do remember back in the day when they first put in those little machines, my late granddad, my grandfather, was just staggered by it. So I do know what he wants to lead into, which is the state of late night television, and he is coming back, I think. How we looking?
Got me?
I got you.
Okay. We're good. We're synced up.
Sounds like it.
Okay, cool.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what the fuck's going on with this lately. I apologize. You were talking about the state of late night television?
No, I said we were going to get into it just because of
Yeah.
what happened with Stephen Colbert and the fact that they didn't just cancel his show, but they canceled the late night show, and it's going to be canceled in May. So they have like 10 months until it's done. But yeah, it's kind of wild that happened.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get into that a little bit more. There's a lot that goes into that. It's not just television. It seems like politics as well. So we'll discuss that a little bit more. But let's talk about training camp and NFL and whatnot. So, sorry. And if let me know if my internet is shitty because I'll go straight into the direct port. What's going on?
If I may, Derek,
go for it.
Can I do the top 5 training camps that you got to monitor? Because I have a feeling we're going to be talking quite a few of them after the 49ers and Raiders discussion, or we go to the 49ers and Raiders, then do the top 5, then get into what's happening around the NFL, because the 49ers and Raiders are not in my top 5.
That's fine. Yeah, go for it. I would love to hear your top 5 of the most intriguing training camps right now.
Look, these are the training camps that you got to pay attention to. All right. Some are really boring. Like, I understand if maybe any of the chat isn't into it just because it's just training camp. After all, it's just practice and we might make too much of it. But I do think there are some interesting teams out there right now. And number 5, I'm going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Number 5, this is kind of just because Mike Vrabel is back, but it's the Patriots, and watching Vrabel and his vengeance against the media, especially that in New England. We saw it already play out in day 1. And they also got a quarterback who is on the verge of a second-year leap in Drake May. I think that's something to keep an eye on. Plus, they got that dude we talked about earlier, the guy they drafted. I can't remember his name. He's the white dude. He is the Julian Edelman, Danny Amendola mold. I can't remember his name, though.
Will Campbell.
Patriots found. What?
Will Campbell.
No, I'm talking about a small white wide receiver.
On the Patriots or the Raiders?
The Patriots. It's a guy they drafted in like the 6th round. We talked about him a little while back.
I don't recall.
I don't remember his name, but he
Yeah,
is
neither
the
do
next
I.
Julian Edelman. Watch out for him. That's number 5. Number 4 is officially the Miami Dolphins. You have a quarterback who seems to hate the number 1 wide receiver after what happened last season. And you also have a head coach who could be on the verge of the hot seat if his team doesn't actually pick it up. So that's going to be another interesting training camp to pay attention to. Number 3, the Cowboys. The Cowboys, their defensive players are pissed, but the offense is going to act like it's the best ever with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. You're already hearing a little bit of that from Schottenheimer. And I think it's hilarious watching the Cowboys every year build it up to be the greatest offense that they've seen in this era, only for it to come up short in the divisional round once again. So I think that's one to pay attention to, but also Micah Parsons is just going off about not getting a contract. Number 2, it's the Chargers, and there's no drama. There's no drama with the Chargers. I mean, there's the Najee Harris stuff, but Harbaugh's insane. Harbaugh's nuts. And if anyone hasn't looked up The Curtain and Harbaugh, I recommend you do so. I highly recommend that. And he was already happy about it being a meme earlier today. So Chargers are number 2, and number 1 feels like an obvious one. It's the Bengals. This thing with Shamar Stewart and Trey Hendrickson is just getting even more juicy, especially since now the Bengals responded to Stewart's claims, and it made it seem like Stewart is kind of in the wrong here, but you don't really know who to believe. So that's going to be a fascinating one to keep up with. And it looks like he's not even going to go practice with Texas A&M, or he's not going to play with Texas A&M, even though he's been working out with them all summer. So those are my 5 most interesting teams to keep an eye on. I do have an honorable mention for the Colts just because of the Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson angle, and they really are just a quarterback away. And I would give an honorable mention to the Steelers, but Aaron Rodgers doesn't want us to talk about him anymore, so I won't.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, everything going on with Micah Parsons and Trey Hendrickson makes it very interesting with their contract situations. We'll get to that in a little bit here, but yeah, I agree with everything you just said. I mean, yeah, everything with the Bengals and the Cowboys. I mean, the Chargers video of Jim Harbaugh, like lurking like a peep show in the background of a Justin Herbert play is, I mean, that's just peak Jim Harbaugh, where he basically has a weird, bromance with his quarterback, which, that's a good relationship to have when you're the head coach and the quarterback. But yeah, we'll definitely get to everything with going on with the Bengals and the Cowboys. But let's start with the Raiders, because we haven't talked a lot about them in the offseason. They kind of been laying low, not like a huge offseason, but then again, they did trade for a quarterback. They did make a lot of changes. It's just not like something happening every day where you're alarmed by what's going on. So maybe that's a good situation. But I watched Pete Carroll's press conference yesterday, and man, the guy's always jacked. He's juiced up. He's ready to go. I love that, when he was asked, so what do you anticipate for your win total this season? He was like, oh, we're going to win a bunch of games. And, it's night and day with a year ago. Like Antonio Pierce, he definitely galvanized the team and lit a fire under them. But Pete just seems like that same type of guy, but knows what the fuck he's doing. And, sorry, but you going to say something?
No, I'd say like they have the same enthusiasm, but when Carroll speaks, there's just so much more weight attached to it because of all that he's accomplished in his career. With Pierce, it's like, this is great. You're doing all the talking and you're winning over us fans and the public, but how's it going to play out on the field? And turns out he didn't do a whole lot of talking when he's on the sideline. Like the way that Pete Carroll is acting in the press conferences right now is exactly the way you're going to see him on the sideline. You saw it with the Seahawks. You saw it with USC. He's going to be chewing his gum. The Nike Air Monarchs are going to be getting their steps in up and down the sideline, and he's going to be cheering with his players, hitting guys on the helmet, cheering. Like it really is night and day almost with the energy that you feel with this training camp, at least for the Raiders.
Yeah, I mean, he's authentic. Like I talked about his USC class that he was teaching this offseason and actually all of last season. Rich Eisen went to a session of that and just watched all of his classmates crying, but it's how profound everything he said was and how he touched their lives. So I assume he's still going to have that effect on a football team. But just watching him yesterday, I mean, I think he's authentic, but I don't know if he's sincere with one of these clips. So, Steven, do you have the clip I sent you of him saying that he has a lot of confidence in the secondary?
No, I got the one where you're saying he's looking pretty damn good, or the group is looking as impressive as he's seen it.
Yeah. That's what I'm alluding to. The fact that he's basically comparing this current secondary that the Raiders have to that of the Legion of Boom. And this is what
Hang
Pete
on.
Carroll.
Keep filibustering.
This is what Pete Carroll, the new head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, at age 73, had to say.
We're really athletic, we're really fast, and we're big, and it's an impressive looking group. I can't remember ever having a group that looks more impressive than this group. My guys will be pissed at me that I said that up north, the old guys, but it's the truth. These guys are big and fast and really hungry to make a mark and all, and how we blend that together is what a defensive coordinator, defensive coach dreams about. And this is going to be an exciting challenge for him.
Okay, I know that Pete is firing up his guys, and he's going to be overly positive, and that's what you want to see in a coach, and that's what his MO's been since he's been the head coach of the Seahawks, since he's really been a head coach in football, going back to USC. But when I look at the Raiders roster right now, and you got Eric Stokes, they just picked up Jamal Adams, who's in his late 20s and kind of fallen off a little bit. I think he's more of just a box safety, like doesn't really have great coverage ability. But Pete knows him, so maybe he's just going to be there to have leadership skills for the young guys. But yeah, I can't even think of anything. Like, there's Eric Stokes that just picked up this offseason. Nate Hobbs left to go to the Packers. They signed Jeremy Chin. There's a rookie on the roster. I think his name was Darian Porter that they drafted, I want to say, in the 4th round. So all in all, I know that Pete is, very enthusiastic about what's going to happen with the Raiders this season, but to compare it to potential Hall of Famers, Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor, Jeremy Lane, Byron Maxwell, that's a little outrageous. If he would have made this comparison with the linebacking core, and even that's a stretch with what they had back in the day with Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright. But if they want to say the linebacking core, if they want to say the defensive line with Max Crosby's the best defensive lineman ever coached, then I can handle that. But the secondary, that's one of my biggest question marks right now with the team.
Everyone can read right through that.
Yeah.
The reason they signed Jamal Adams is because they needed to get better at the secondary, and Jamal Adams is just a low-risk move. I don't know if you're going to get a reward for it, but it's just a low-risk move. Why not sign a veteran free agent who has some pedigree? But I think everyone could see that. That one, he's just talking up his guys. But isn't that what his job is? I mean, he's not going to go out there and say, well, this is, I've had a more talented group in Seattle, but this is the one that I have to work with. So I'll just play with the cards that I was dealt. But I don't think he's going to do that. I guess he didn't have to bring up that comment, but yeah,
I think he caught himself. I think he caught himself saying it's one of the more talented groups I've ever been a part of, and he's like, "Oh shit, I had one of the best secondaries in NFL history." So now how's that going to look? He could have just easily said, I'm very confident in this defensive unit. We got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of young guys, but I'm confident in them. He didn't need to compare it to the Legion of Boom, but that's just Pete. And I'd rather have that than Antonio Pierce being all awkward about, Devontae Adams. Is he going to play here? Is he mad at me? I don't need all that shit. Pete's never going to have, I highly doubt that there's going to be a player that doesn't get along with Pete Carroll, because he is a people person at the end of the day. He cares about each player. So yeah, while that stood out to me, I wasn't really over concerned about that. I thought it was just a ridiculous comparison.
Yeah. Well, that's also, you mentioned, though, Devontae Adams, and that's the big difference going into training camp. There's really not a lot of that to speak of. Obviously, the Adams stuff was kind of a cloud hanging over Nevada, but really Josh Jacobs, too, leaving for Green Bay and getting that contract, and just having the awkward draft where they didn't take a quarterback when everyone thought they were going to take a quarterback, and going into it with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. So that has something to do with it too. It's not just Pete Carroll. It's absolutely the team that they're putting out on the field and the potential product there.
Yeah, but I mean, I agree with that. He's also just a ray of sunshine. He's just going to bring that positive energy every day at, a vibrant 73 years old. And then there's Geno Smith, who I remember a year ago, you and I were doing this pod, and you said not that he was going to be this guy on the field, but more so just like a lot of people use this word these days, where I think it's kind of overused. The aura of Gardner Minshew was kind of going to be like that of Ken Stabler, having the long hair and a gunslinger, like an old school Raider quarterback. And you and I thought that maybe he would have fun catchphrases during the season, but then again, his play never matched his personality, and it got really bad. Like, we never saw the fun Gardner Minshew. Geno Smith, what was the famous one a couple years ago where he was playing with the Seahawks, his first game as the starter, taking over for Russell Wilson, beat Russell Wilson. And I think his phrase was, "They wrote me off, but I didn't write back." Was that it, Steven?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought what he said the other day at training camp was really good, where he said, "I'm not here to roll the dice. I'm here to run the table." I mean, you and Mauser were talking about like who's good for the NFL, and you brought up Jameis Winston, who, he's kind of a poet himself with really fun sayings. Geno Smith, for a guy that, later in his career has had success, not so much early in his career when he was like second round pick and people thought he was going to be the best quarterback in that 2012 draft coming out of West Virginia. He's definitely more confident in himself. And I like what he has to say. So today, I think he said he's quoting Al Davis saying a wise man once said, "Just win, baby," when he reacted to Pete Carroll saying that we're going to win a bunch of games this season. I think that Geno Smith, if you want to hear it, yeah, we can play it.
Said yesterday, he already has expectations to win a lot of games, not just improve upon last year's win total, but have a winning record. Are your expectations already in line with Pete's too, already in training camp?
Yes, sir. As a great man once said, just win, baby. So that's what we're here to do. We're here to win. And, again, it's about what we do every single day, winning habits, creating a winning mentality. That's something we're doing already. So we just got to take it one day at a time, one step at a time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, do you agree with that, Steven, that we'll get kind of what we expected from Gardner Minshew? Not so much, I don't know if we expected much from Gardner Minshew on the field, but just embodying a leader, and not just so much the catchphrases, but a guy that's going to rally the troops and a guy that's going to, put faith back in the stands with fans.
Yeah, no, I'm actually, there's no comparison with Gardner Minshew. I didn't think Minshew shouldn't even be the starter. I mean, I thought we were going to get some funny moments from him, but I wasn't expecting him to be like the leader of this club that was going to take him all the way to the promised land. I was expecting fun-loving Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, but you were expecting him to be kind of Stablerish and just in his personality.
Yeah, if he played well, but he didn't. So my expectations weren't the same as it was for Geno. Like as soon as Geno came in, you're like, okay, that's an instant leader. Like that is an instant reliable veteran. Like Gardner Minshew wasn't that. Gardner Minshew was a backup who's had some flashy moments through his NFL career. So my expectations are completely different. And, the words are great. But I tend to agree with Ernie to an extent. Geno had some better quotes than play. There's a lot more of a play to dissect rather than the quotes. He's only said a couple of them, but you do have to show it on the field. It's great that you could say all the right things, but can you actually put it all together?
No doubt. I'm just saying that it's kind of a silly comparison because Gardner Minshew is a backup in this league, and right now Geno Smith's a starting quarterback. But I do feel more confident with him, and I do think that there'll be moments where, we'll get the best quarterback play that the Raiders have had since Derek Carr. And will it be good enough to get to the postseason? Possibly. I do think their schedule is pretty favorable this season, but yeah, I do think he's going to be just a leader that the Raiders haven't had in quite some time. Derek Carr was that guy, but he did lose faith in the locker room where we heard all the stories from Hondo Carpenter, him and Josh McDaniels. Maybe the ending wasn't great and maybe Josh McDaniels didn't handle things properly. But everything we heard of, Derek crying in the post-game press conference and some of the guys thinking that, he was whining a little bit too much. Geno's not going to be that guy. Like Jimmy Garoppolo was never one of the guys. Gardner Minshew probably was one of the guys, but I don't think Devontae Adams ever believed in him. I don't think anybody believes in Aiden O'Connell to the point where he's going to be the difference maker. Geno Smith is the guy that gets you to the postseason and can throw 3 touchdowns in a game. And also, yes, I'm with you, Rockin' New Era. It's Geno and not Gene. Yes. He could definitely throw 3 interceptions in a game as well. He does throw a lot of interceptions, a little too much for my liking. But I do feel confident in the Raiders having a solid quarterback and a true leader for the first time in a while.
Yeah, and you say that word confident. I didn't see that from Derek Carr post 2016 16. Like it's like you could see it. You could see it oozing out of him. Just confidence be gone. Whether it was the plays that he made, his body language, I think we're going to see a completely different, I guess you could say, aura around Smith going into this year. Like he's always been fairly stable on the field. He doesn't seem to get too much of a hot head, and he's extremely accurate. So yeah, they got a quarterback, which is more promising than we could say for last year.
And then Rockin asks here, Gino is just a placeholder, right? Not really, dude. I mean, when they signed him to, I think it was a 3-year deal and give him $40 a year, he is technically not the future, obviously. It's kind of the same situation with Sam Darnold where he's the guy for right now. But yeah, they're going to find a quarterback eventually. He's not going to be the answer long term.
Can long-term placeholder be a phrase that we use? Because that's where he's at. He's not long term. He's not a paperweight where he's just going to be taken off for someone else. Like they didn't get a rookie quarterback. Like he is the guy.
Yeah.
No one waiting in the wings.
No, and we'll see how he plays this year. Like we were talking about earlier this year when they gave him the contract, it is a tradable deal. So I do think we'll see how it goes. And if they don't like his play, I'm sure they'll bring in some competition next year as far as what they find in the draft. There was one concerning thing that I think you and I were texting about. I texted a bunch of Raider fans about this. Christian Wilkins being on PUP. And even though Pete Carroll is a confident or I should say positive coach, they started the press conference off with being asked about that. And he said, no timeline whatsoever for Christian Wilkins. And if you guys remember, he broke his foot with a Jones fracture back in week 5. And it's different for everybody, but usually the timeline to recover from that is 6 to 12 weeks. And now we're in July, basically August of that following year. This injury, though, is slow healing when it's a non-union injury, I guess. I had to look this all up, but don't. I'm not a doctor, but this is just what I found on AI Google these days. If it doesn't heal properly, it could take 9 months. And that's what I think we're dealing with here. I don't know what is the truth, but it could be that Christian Wilkins never had this heal properly, or he tried really hard to rehab and broke it again. And that's out there. And some people even say he may not be the same player ever again, which is heartbreaking to hear that when you just signed him to a big-ass contract just a year ago. So that's the one big concern I have right now with the Raiders. There's other question marks as far as the secondary and the wide receiving core. But if Christian Wilkins is not healthy this season and maybe not healthy ever again, you're going to ask a lot of Tyree Wilson. You're going to ask a lot of Malcolm Kuntz and obviously Max Crosby. But he was supposed to be the hole stuffer, that big nose tackle lining up right next to Max Crosby. If it looks like he's not going to be the same player ever again, that's a little alarming.
Yeah, well, keep an eye on those defensive tackles because their defensive line is pretty much set. Malcolm Kuntz is going to be starting off the edge, and Tyree Wilson is probably just going to be a guy who comes in on third downs or something. I don't really know what his role with the team's going to be. Adam Butler's pretty solidified there at D tackle, and then Christian Wilkins would normally be alongside him. I think we're going to see a lot of rookies. The Christian Wilkins thing sucks, though.
Yeah.
It really does. I was so excited. I was stoked when they made that move. You have one of the most charismatic players in the league who can also back up the talk, and they signed him to a huge contract, and you're hoping for that Crosby-Wilkins connection. Just so excited for it, and you've barely even seen it play out. I don't really know how to analyze or, give a take on it. It just sucks. It sucks.
There's really no take to, yeah, no, it definitely sucks. There's no take to be had, especially when a guy has basically been injury-free for his time with the Miami Dolphins, and then he goes to the Raiders, and you're like, God, they curse? Like, this is a great signing. I don't see any negatives with it. And then they get him. It's like, God, is his career already over? And it was a big contract. So we'll see what happens. I'm hoping that it doesn't turn out that, we're not going to see a lot of him this season. Everything I read, it sounds like he's not going to start the season on time, which is, for that type of injury, it's a broken bone. It's not a torn ACL. It's not Achilles. It's a broken bone, and those should heal. But then again, everybody's body is different. So, yeah, that's the one thing that could hamper this season defensively. But, Then again, Pete Carroll's a defensive mastermind. They brought back, God, who's my guy? Who's the defense coordinator? Illusion of Complexity.
Oh, good God. Why am I blanking on his name too? It's
It
Patrick.
sucks getting older.
Good
Patrick
Lord.
Graham.
Patrick
Patrick
Graham.
Graham.
I was about to call him Patrick Williams.
Yeah. And Patrick Graham knows him from Miami. He was a defensive coordinator for Brian Flores. I know, dude. I'm doing that all the time now. I can't stand it. Like, it's not even like me trying to be funny with like, who's my guy? I literally have like brain farts and like, why am I blanking on this? What happened to my memory? I used to be young.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, yes, he has done all the right things. Watch out for Tonka Hemingway. Watch out for that.
That's a great name.
A fourth rounder they selected out of South Carolina.
Okay.
He's third on the depth chart right now, but watch out for him. Tonka Hemingway.
Tonka Hemingway. Okay. That's a name to remember, and I don't think I'll forget his name because that's one hell of a name. As far as the other signings they made, yeah, we brought up Jamal Adams. I don't know if he's going to be there. Like the same thing with Devin White. I'm sure Devin White makes the team, but it's kind of an aging player that probably is there for leadership, but I don't know for play. Philip Dorsett, who was in training camp with the Raiders a couple of years ago, was signed as well. I rather like basically Philip Dorsett's another version of Trey Tucker, like a speedy slot guy. I'm still waiting for them to sign Amari Cooper because I hear great things about Jack Besh, but I don't know if I can rely on him as the number 2, just as far as a second rounder. So I hope they add something there.
Why are you so out on Devin White though? Like, what do you mean he's not even going to make the team? Like, he's 27 years old.
No, the only reason I say that is because I thought it was a big signing for the Eagles a year ago, and that may just be because Nakobe Dean and Zach Bond were filling that role a lot better than he could, but he was cut and no one picked him up. And I think it's just, to be honest, I think it's John Spytek doing a solid for his former player. And, you know, he's there because the linebacking core is fine, but could be better. I just have my doubts. You know, I know he's only 27, but he does have injuries. And it's what happened with the Eagles a year ago. That's why I think that way, but it could be unfair. He very well could make this team.
I'm not counting him out. Like, I'd say be patient with that one.
Yeah, like I said, it could be that the Eagles found, you know, younger and cheaper talent, and that's why they were able to move on from him. Why nobody else signed him is pretty, you know, not alarming, but like, you know, I question that.
It is.
But
he didn't. It's not like you put great tape out there. Like, there's clips you could find of him just straight up giving up on them in the middle of a play.
Yeah.
But maybe he just kind of got complacent after they won the Super Bowl. And I think that there's going to be a sense of urgency for him. Maybe that's what I'm just, you know what? I'm just saying what I'm think this is going to happen because I want it to happen. Like, that's why I'm saying that. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I want it to happen. There's that fine line, Derek.
No, I get it, man.
You'll hear that a lot in sports radio where I think this is going to happen instead of I think, just replace that word with I want.
Yes.
I want this to happen because it's probably not going to, but if you think it will, okay.
If you talk about it enough, you'll manifest in your mind that it's going to happen.
Exactly.
And also, that's the way radio hosts just basically want to say, I want to be right.
Yeah, true. But it's also a way to make conversation, and you know, you do it all the time when you're speaking with your friends at the bar or something like that. When you say, "I think this is going to happen," it's like, no, that's what I want to happen.
Exactly.
You know, there's a fine line there.
Like, I think that Devin White has a better chance to make the team than Jalen Smith. Jalen Smith, I can't remember the last time he actually played. That's why, like, the Raiders have a lot of former guys you remember from back in the day that I don't think will make a difference on this team. That's like, it's basically like signing Marcus Peters, like when they did a couple years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And then just a couple of news with the team. Props to Kirk Morrison, who's going to be the new radio analyst for the broadcast. You know Kirk, I know Kirk. We texted him. Really, I mean, I remember him as a Raider. Lorenzo Neal always brings his name up when he talks about back in the day when he was doing Raiders training camp. You remember that, Steven? Did he ever talk to you about this?
No.
So Lorenzo Neal was basically just doing training camp with the Raiders, I think in 2009, or maybe it was earlier than that. But he didn't know if he was going to make the team, and he knew that he could get the best of Kirk Morrison. Like, he talks about it all the time, like, oh, man, That skinny linebacker? Yeah, we used to run at him all the time with the Chargers. And then when they played each other during training camp sessions, Kirk Morrison just hated going against Lowe. And Lowe had no respect for him whatsoever.
Yeah.
People, Kirk Morrison wasn't the best in run defense, but you best believe he was a good coverage linebacker. I remember him picking off a lot of passes.
Yeah, he was going to be all over the field.
But I believe he's a better broadcaster than ever he was a player. Like, I've seen him fill in for Rich Eisen. He did the Rams radio network for years when I was living in LA. He did the pre and post game show. He's very knowledgeable about basketball, just living in LA and talking about all sports, knowledgeable about the Dodgers. And now for him to take over his childhood dream of, his dream was to play for the Raiders, and now he's broadcasting their games. I'm sure he would love it if it was still in Oakland, a guy that went to Bishop O'Dowd. But yeah, just really cool for Kirk Morrison. I'll also say, love my guy Lincoln Kennedy. Don't know what the future is for him. I think he's going to be affiliated with the team in some capacity, maybe pre and post game show. But yeah, good for Kirk. I'm happy for him.
Yeah, I'm sure Lincoln will land on his feet somewhere. Cool.
Definitely. I don't know if he, like I said, I don't know if he's going to stay with the team. It sounds like he is, but he did a lot of college football too with the Pac-12 network. So I'm sure he'll be fine. And he's a really good broadcaster.
One time he filled in with Drew Hoffer. It was Hoffer and Lincoln. And I was working the board for their show. And Lincoln, for whatever reason, already lunch. That's a throwback. Low called Lincoln lunch. Lunch. I mean Link. But when Drew Hoffer and Lincoln were doing the show, Link was sitting outside the studio, and I went to introduce myself, and I was still fairly young. I think I was an intern actually, so I was a little nervous. But he's standing out of the studio, just holding a cigar, not lit, wasn't smoking it.
Yeah,
he was just holding a cigar. I don't know if there's a comfortability factor, like how Mike Krukow holds the baseball during the broadcast, but he was holding a cigar in between two fingers as if he was going to smoke it, but he didn't light it because he was in the studio. Just so cool. Aura, Derek.
Yeah. Do you think we use that word too much these days?
Of course.
Yeah, it's getting annoying.
It's just because of social media.
I know. Like, I was listening to...
If you use that word in real life, I'm sorry, rethink.
Yeah. Well, it's
Reset.
a fine word. Say again.
Reset.
Yeah.
Your whole thought process and realize, welcome to real life. No one says, oh man, he has so much aura. No, what? Good Lord, come up with a new word.
Yeah.
Be creative.
Like, I think it's appropriate for, when I think of aura, the first thing I think of is Charlie Murphy talking about Rick James when he's doing the sketch on Chappelle's show. He's like, He walked in and all that orange shit around him, that, what would you call it? His aura? That's appropriate for that. I've been listening to Chris Long's podcast, and he did a whole episode where they talked about the aura of quarterbacks. And I was like, dude, did your 23-year-old producer come up with that? Like, come on. Like, who gives a shit about that? That's an overused term. But yeah, no, Link loves himself a good stogie. I remember we did a broadcast. My pops, Bonte, did a show on the golf course in Walnut Creek, and Link came through. And yeah, he had, I think he had 5 stogies ready to go. Like, just not even playing golf, but just sitting there and answering questions and just, one stogie to another.
Not lit.
No, his because he was outside. They were lit.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And then there's the other Raider broadcast news, and you and I were talking about this. We all love Baron Davis on the Draymond Green podcast because he adds so much to that show. When Draymond's talking about how he needs to play better and punching Jordan Poole and what's going on with the team, and all Baron Davis could say is, come on, man. Hey, come on, man. Come on, Poole. You got to move on. It's 3 years old, man.
Crazy, bro.
That's crazy, bro. I mean, come on. He doesn't add much. Well, people saw that with the Raiders and thought, you know what? We need to give Baron Davis his own Raider TV show. And that's what's happening. I don't know what the details are. I think you and I just saw the post and we're like, huh? Baron Davis is going to be on Raiders TV, which I don't know what that is. I think maybe a YouTube channel or a local channel in Las Vegas. But yeah, I guess Baron Davis is a Raider fan, and he's going to host a Raider show.
He
Your
is
thoughts?
some host for State of the Union, whatever that is. Is he the new Chris Townsend?
He might be, actually. He might
Baron
be.
Davis is the new Chris Townsend. Who would have thought?
Well, dude, when
Who
they went
cares
to
what we
Vegas,
think? What does JT the Brick think?
oh man, can you imagine? Oh, I'm gonna have a speed brick with Baron Davis. Baron, tell me what you think about Geno Smith today. Oh man, Geno, he was like, ah! Yeah, exactly.
Just interrupt. What was that he used to do?
He would say that all the time. Like if he didn't like a caller's take, he would just scream "pow" like the dude from Hangover.
Pow.
I remember being in the background, being in the back studio when JT was doing his show, and the producer of the show, Brian Burns, and Ryan McGeary, our friend on the board. I was like doing something in the back where I had to like get the ISDN lines hooked up for my pops, and all I hear is JT go, "All right, I want to get your thoughts on Kawhi Leonard getting hurt in the Warriors Game 1 victory against the San Antonio Spurs. I think that the Spurs would have won this game. If you say otherwise, I'm going to cut you off. Let's go. Spade brick." This one guy calls in and goes, "JT, I disagree with you, man. The Warriors have had that ability all season long to come back in games." Pow! And I turned to Brian. I'm like, what is he doing right now? Why is he screaming? And he's like, "Oh, dude, you never listen? That's what he does." Like, no explanation. Just, that's what JT the Brick does. He screams.
Speed Brick.
Speed brick, yep.
I'd love to see him and BD on a pod together.
That's a lot of energy and a lot of low energy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the two would mesh well.
Yeah, that'd be a very interesting show/podcast. I mean, in recent years, they've had they've had Bucky Brooks, I think, be a part of some of their broadcasts or whatever they do as far as like a YouTube show.
Yeah.
They have that guy at NFL Network. I forget his name, but he looks like Eli Manning. Rhett Lewis. He was part of that. So now they're going to Baron Davis. Eric Allen, yep. Nicole Zalumis. You remember her from Good Morning, or not Good Morning Football. It was like NFL AM like 10, 15 years ago.
Yes.
So, yeah, Baron Davis. I hope he has a co-host.
I'll be keeping an eye on that one.
Yeah. So there you go. That's everything with the Raiders as far as training camp. With the Niners, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan spoke yesterday. Did it seem to you like this was the most happy they've been in quite some time when they had to do like a state of the season address right before training camp?
I guess.
I think so. I mean, in recent years, they had to deal with so much bullshit when it was all the contracts. Like I remember a year ago, John Lynch didn't even want to. He looked annoyed about the Brandon Ayuk stuff.
Yeah, definitely. But it was the regular 49ers preseason or pre-training camp press conference. The and stuffs were flying from Shanahan. The "we love our team" was flying from John Lynch. You know, pick of the litter of their cliches that they love to use.
Yeah.
Oh, we like that guy. Oh, we love him. We have a great relationship. He likes us. We like him. And, I love him. We love him dearly. Love him.
Yep. And then when Vic Tafer asked about Juwan Jennings, like, so are you guys going to get that contract done? He's here and we love him.
He's here. We love him. That's it.
Yeah. So everything that we thought was going to be a big deal when it comes to the wide receiver drama, the Juwan Jennings contract situation, he's there. He's not holding in. Did you see from Matt Mayoka, he caught 3 asses today?
Yeah, he caught 3 asses. Ass man.
Yep. Matt Mayoka, the ass man. Yeah, Juwan Jennings, he's not a troublemaker. Like I said last time, he's the type of guy to have 3 touchdowns in a game against the Rams and not even want to talk about it because they lost. So I don't think he's going to be demonstrative. I don't think he's going to make it all about himself. I think that his agent, and I even know Drew Rosenhaus was representing him, I think that he wants to get his client paid. And he threw out there the trade request, but Kyle shot that down and said he didn't demand a trade. So I think that they love Juwan and they're going to pay him. And I wonder if that's going to impact Brandon Ayuk for his future. But you have to go into the season thinking that Juwan Jennings is going to be your most reliable receiver because what he's accomplished in the past. And Ricky Pearsall could be the most talented wide receiver you have. But we don't know because with the injuries last year, and it was unfortunate with him getting shot, and also him being on PUP right now, not that big of a deal. It sounds like it's just a precautionary thing. He was doing sprints along the field today. So it sounds like he should be back by Sunday's practice, and they're going to play him in the preseason. So with all that information, I'm not that concerned about the wide receivers right now.
No. Well, the wide receivers, yeah, I think there's a concern. I think the fact that your two youngest players have hamstring injuries already is not great. Obviously, Pearsall's still recovering, but the fact that that was in OTAs, that's not a good sign that he already had one. Jacob Cowling potentially pulling a hamstring.
Yeah,
that's not great. And with JYOM Jennings, he had a great season last year, but is that is that like as high as he's going to go, like a 975 yards, 6 touchdowns? Are we going to see him eclipse that sort of thing? He's absolutely valuable to the team, but if you're having him as a number one receiver, I know there's always that talk of him being the number one receiver, especially during the year. But to me, George Kittle's your number one receiver. I don't think any of the wide receivers are your number one. Technically, I think a number 85 has got to be it with the way the wide receiver room is shaping out right now.
Well, I would say it's Kittle, it's McCaffrey, and then it's the true wide receivers. And JYOM Jennings should not be your number one guy, but right now he is, just based out of necessity. You don't know what's going to happen with Brandon Ayuk, and John Lynch basically said there's no concrete timeline. People that are expecting him to come back after like 6 weeks, I doubt it. I think that Brandon Ayuk's going to probably come back by Thanksgiving, and they're probably going to have to play the majority of the season without him. Yeah. And you know what? I feel comfortable with that because I do think that Kyle's the type of coordinator and play caller to scheme it up where he doesn't need the best wide receivers. As long as he has a competent quarterback that can read the field and basically do what he says, then they'll be fine. And I know I'm diminishing what Brock Purdy does, but that's what you need to do when you play Kyle Shanahan's offense. So I know he had Julio Jones in the past. That's the best wide receiver he's ever coached. But you look at everything else, not, top of the line guys.
Right.
Like Debo. What's that?
Right. But I still think if you're going to look at, what would be the 3 position groups that you'd say have the biggest question marks surrounding it? Because I think the 3 that you can list off is the secondary. I think the defensive line and the wide receivers, maybe the offensive line, but it doesn't seem like there's much of a battle there. It's just, you don't have all pro names, save for Trent Williams elsewhere, but they seem to really love their offensive line. So I don't really think there's many question marks around it.
I think there's definitely question marks with the offensive line.
I'm not any as far as who's going to be starting and who's going to be playing.
No. I'm not saying about that. I'm saying confidence level. Like, right. I do think as long as Trent's healthy, then their offensive line usually stays upright. But we saw last year, Jalen Moore had to fill in, and he's not there anymore. So, as Trent's getting older, what is he, 37, 38? You know how much longer he's going to play? They didn't really add anybody on the offensive line. It was really defense and every, facet of that unit. So I would say offensive line's a question mark. I would say the linebacking core is a question mark. Yeah, and I would say it's a tie between the wide receiving core and the defensive line, just because you can make up with Bosa. Bryce Huff is an established player somewhat. And then the linebacking or the wide receiving core, you got a few guys that but there are definitely question marks there. But as far as just what people were freaking out about with Ricky Pearsall being on PUP and JYOM Jennings, the contract stuff, I think that's small potatoes right now. But yes, the Jacob Cowings injury, you don't know what's going to happen week 1. Demarcus Robinson could be suspended for 3 games. So if he's not out there and you're down to, Equanimous St. Brown, then that's concerning.
And that guy's a question mark even to make the team.
Yeah, definitely.
And you're relying on so many rookies defensively. Like if Nick Martin or D Winters can pan out and fill in the space of Dre Greenlaw, then that's obviously great for them. But I still think the jury's out on that position too. Yeah, I guess the point that I'm getting to is I'm not concerned about JYOM Jennings, the individual. I think there's question marks about the overall wide receiver room, but I also think there's more interesting talking points rather than a veteran who is fully participating with the team. Like, talk about a bad negotiating tactic if he's really trying to get that big money contract. Hey, I'll practice with you guys. No problem. It's not holding it. It's literally just I mean, there's no term for it because he's just playing. He's doing what athletes do, and that's playing while wanting a new contract. I'm sure Diamador Lenore had discussions about wanting a contract extension, and they got his deal done in the middle of the season. At the end of the day, like, sure, he might have this contract request attached to him at training camp, but at the end of he's still just a player who's on the field practicing.
Yeah.
You know?
And that may go a long way with, other guys, the way that they were, handling their contract negotiations in the past. Like, I think it annoyed Kyle and John that Debo and more so Ayuk decided to hold in, where they would bring all that negativity with them every day, as opposed to Bosa, who they would love for him to have been there, but he's gone, out of mind, out of sight, not causing any problems. Brandon Ayuk would come into training camp, and there'd be a dark cloud that he would bring with him because there would be so much negativity. And he would show up to the preseason games, and Kyle would be asked about that even more. He would come on every week with Tom and Adam, and he had to keep asking about that or answering about that. So that's where that became annoying. Which Juwan Jennings, I think they nipped it in the bud real quick because I think they're going to pay him. And it's not like that going to be that astronomical of a number to begin with. Is it going to be 3 for 45 like I said last time? Maybe not. Matt Maiocco thinks it's going to be a little less than that. But I do think that it goes a long way with them that they really appreciate this guy from where he's been to, I think he was a 6th-round pick or maybe a 7th-round pick to now being, by default, the number 1 wide receiver on the team.
Mm-hmm.
But, we brought it up last time. He probably would have been Super Bowl MVP. He had a really good season this year. And I know that the receiving yardage, not amazing. I think it was around 900s. I forget what the total, what you just said, Stephen, but
it was 975.
975. If you look at his numbers compared to Brandon Ayuk's, as far as touchdowns and catches, not that far off.
Yeah.
So, and again, Brandon Ayuk gets more yardage because he's a deeper threat. But I do think you're going to see that Brandon Ayuk could be expendable come, next offseason. So as far as everything with the 49ers, it's nice that there's no huge drama. If there's injuries that, perpetuate, then that's going to be an issue. But besides all that, I think that for the first time in a long time, Kyle and John feel very good about their season ahead and don't have to worry about narratives. It's just let's focus on football, and then what comes with the play, what comes with the injuries, we'll address that then.
Sure. But I think it's also a little more difficult when you do have to focus on football, but a lot of it is trying to establish these rookies and get them ready to play day one because you're not going to be sitting a lot of them. I go back to this little quote that George Kittle had with Mayoko at the Tahoe Century Championship, how he said it, this draft class reminds him of the one from 2017, where a lot of those guys are going to have to be ready to play. And I don't know how much of a good thing that is. It's great to reminisce, but if you really have as many rookies, potentially 5 who can legit fight for a starting job, I don't know how good that is for your overall roster, how promising that is. Because you just never know.
Yeah, but that's what happened, in 2019, where they were establishing, they haven't established anything at that point. They were coming off a 4-12 season and went 13-3 with a team that, there was a few pieces they had in the offseason. They got Tevin Coleman and D Ford, but there's a lot of question marks, a lot of rookies. Nobody was wowing anybody wide receiver wise. It was really more so the defense that people felt good about with the defensive line, the pass rush, and Nick Bosa being their first-round draft pick and acquiring D Ford. They still had DeForest Buckner. They still had Armstead.
Emmanuel Sanders, too. They added him. And
at the trade deadline.
Richard Sherman. They didn't use a ton of their start. I guess Debo would probably be one of the most used outside of Nick Bosa. But outside of that, their 2019 draft wasn't used as heavily as this one's going to be.
Yeah, but you have to start somewhere. And I think that what they're hoping it's going to be is the Rams situation where they paid Stafford, Kupp, and Donald, and then they hit on Jared Verse, Brendan Fisk, and Kobe Turner. And that's how they were able to...
Brandon Fisk and Jared Verse and Kobe Turner.
Is that how I sound right now?
Merton Sturford and Kyrie Williams.
What are you doing right now?
Doing your voice.
That's my voice?
That's what it sounded like when you said Fursk, Jared Versk, and Brandon Fursk.
And they all rhyme. Fisk. Brandon Fisk.
No, but that's what makes it like, that's why I'm intrigued with how things go during 49ers camp really as much as any season previously. Because if you looked outside of that Ayuk and Debo stuff, there really wasn't a lot. Well, I guess there was a quarterback thing too when Debo was around. But if you look at the Ayuk thing, there really wasn't much going on. I mean, the Ayuk thing was just solely Ayuk. Outside of that, I can't remember a thing from training camp last year. I really can't.
Well, Trent Williams. And they were, Kyle talked about it with Tim Kawakami, where they came into that offseason. And really, that was the season where they wanted to reset. That's where Jed was like, yeah, we can't keep doing this. And Kyle even admitted the season 2021, where they traded up to the 3rd overall pick and to get Trey Lance. That following offseason, where they were going to go to Trey Lance, he's honest and says, I wasn't a fan of that because I knew we still have this window. I don't want to jeopardize that just because we have to reset a little bit at quarterback because we have to sign everybody else. So that was the focus last year. I'm sure that they have their breaking point and they wanted to move on from Ayuk, but Kyle was like, dude, we just got to the Super Bowl a year ago. We lost in overtime. Let's try to go for this one more time. And he admits that he would do it all over again. But this is what you got to do now. You got to reset. So they're hoping that they can bank on diamonds in the rough when it comes to, rookies. Like, it's not the same thing, obviously. They were talking about almost 40 years ago, or over 40 years ago, actually. But the 1981 San Francisco 49ers had 3 rookies in the secondary, and 2 of which were Eric Wright and Ronnie Lott. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to do that this season, but I think that this is the first time in a while where the offense is going to have to carry the defense. And I'm not saying they had a bad offense by any means. They had a really good offense since Kyle, took over and really established how they were going to run the ball in 2019. But they were really a elite team because of their defense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in recent years, like last year going into the season, we thought they're still going to be good. Dre Greenlaw, we have to wait on him and see what the injury was going to be, how long it was going to take for him to come back. But on paper, it seemed like they were going to be a solid team. That, even before that, 2023, even though I thought the offense was a little bit better than the defense, going into the season, you thought they were still going to be good. And Steve Wilkes did have them playing pretty good in hindsight compared to a season ago. This is the first time going into the season where I feel the 49ers offense is way above their defense. And there's so many question marks where Robert Saleh's going to have to scheme his ass off, but you still got playmakers, in every facet of their defense. Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Diamador Lenore. Majority of it, though, is going to be question marks.
Yeah, they're vulnerable. They're vulnerable on the defensive side in both the pass and the run. Like, they stunk against the run last year. There's no doubt about it. They couldn't tackle. And how much did they really help themselves this year with their draft picks? Like, can Alfred Collins and Michael Williams really work out? Like, it seems like they got those 2 guys to really be run stuffers. But then on the opposite side of Diamador Lenore, all you're going out there with is Renardo Green, who has, made some big plays, but also has been susceptible. I agree with you. I think they're more vulnerable than they've been in years past. And I'm not saying you need this, but you would rather the offense reverts back to 2023 and starts scoring 30 points a game.
Yeah. And they're going to need Christian McCaffrey to be that guy from, that season. And I do think Kyle will get creative, as Rocca Nuera is saying right here. Kyle needs to get extra creative. Yeah, I think last year he was kind of stubborn at times. I hope he's a little more careful with McCaffrey this season too. But I think that he, everyone acts like he's not going to take anything to heart when it comes to how they played a season ago. Like, he's not going to listen to the fan base by any means or any media members, but he knows what works and doesn't work. So I think he's going to get in the lab, and you're going to see a different type of offense this season. Is it going to be that, dramatically different? No. But I do think it's going to be, he's going to get creative, as he's always been.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Let's get to AJ's little comment here.
You go for
he
it.
had a really long one, and these are usually worth responding to.
Okay.
We were talking about the press conferences and the Ayuk stuff and how they're supposed to answer things. AJ says, I think that's the problem with sports press conferences before, during, and after games and preseason events and such. How much can you say about things that happen on the court or the field without betraying trust or even privilege information, such as an unhappy player or a sensitive personal matter or even contract or trade talk? Not everything is up for public consumption, and verbal dances they do is tiring. I can agree. I can agree with you. I can absolutely agree, especially with the contract or trade stuff. I don't think you're going to get very far in just a regular, average, run-of-the-mill, post-practice or pre-practice press conference before a training camp. Things are going to stay the same until someone comes down with a report saying something, and then they eventually get asked about it. But I do agree that asking about that same thing on a day-to-day basis can get very redundant. However, when it comes to the press conferences, the before press conferences aren't that important. You're more, honestly, I think those are more just for media members to keep to have something to keep an eye on during the game. It's like, okay, this is what the coach is thinking, and let's see if they can put that product out there on the court or the field. But after the game, I think it's pretty important, because after the game, you don't hear the trade stuff. Like you don't hear the contract discussions. Like after the games, I think those press conferences are important because you have questions about what goes on in the game, and more often than not, the big picture stuff that's just kind of pushed to the wayside. So if you have something to react to, I understand with the preseason stuff and the pre-press conferences, but I do think when you have actual games that happen, then yeah, I think those press conferences have value.
There you go, Steven. You're all forgiven from AJ Cruz.
I still don't. Even he doesn't remember what I did. I don't remember what I did.
I know. I forget.
I mean, it's fine. Like I thank you for your forgiveness.
I'm with AJ.
Like Clint Eastwood, the way I was unforgiven.
There you go. Actually, never seen that. Him and Morgan Freeman and Gene Hackman.
Mm-hmm.
You need to get around to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm with AJ. I wish that we talked about the game a little bit more. It's all trivial, dude. I mean, and also, I don't think these beat reporters want to ask this stuff all the time. It's just their job. Like they're beholden to, their editors or their bosses. And if you don't ask this stuff, then you're not doing your job. So It's not like they get a thrill out of asking every single day about Ayuk, but it comes with the territory.
Also, but also we're in the age now where you can go. Sorry to interrupt, but
no, go ahead.
We're in the age now where you can go on YouTube Live and watch the press conferences yourself.
Yeah,
like they're still operating under the traditional media way, which was sure you could see these things on a broadcast, but the way you'd consume their comments was through paper, through print, and obviously we can go just about anywhere to find whatever was said because someone will have posted it via their phone or the teams via their digital accounts. Like I do think it's kind of it's definitely an old school way of doing things still, because there's just so much news that we can get on our own that we almost don't need like a lot of it anymore, where we can just the press conferences are needed. I'm not saying that, but it's just usually I don't know what I'm saying. And also, I guess I can understand the day-to-day questions too, because you want to get I guess you want to get into their head and kind of see how they're feeling.
Yeah, but also I think you can understand why Kyle at times seems a little crusty with the media, because I think at the end of the day, these football coaches, some are better than others, like you saw with Mike Vrabel, where, if people were expecting in New England that it was going to be a little bit easier going with the media now that Bill's gone, not with Vrabel. Like it brought me flashbacks to remember when Mike was the coach of the Titans and he was asked about something and then one of the reporters' name was Gentry, and he was like, "You got any more fucking incredible questions, Gentry?"
Yeah.
That's what reminded me of the clip of Mike Vrabel being asked the same question by Ben Volen, and he was just like, "Well, I could just go through it all over again. I don't know what the hell you were doing, looking at your phone or whatever the hell, but I don't feel like repeating myself." And these coaches are there to do football. They're football guys. At the end of the day, they're former players. So some are more accommodating than others. And I think that Kyle gets a bad rap because he acts annoyed when really the media sometimes acts like they're more knowledgeable than he is. And I think that a lot of coaches, they handle it better than others, but it is annoying. I totally understand.
Yeah. I a lot of the things, I don't know, from just my experience, I don't know, the 3 press conferences I've been to I've been with in the 49ers, but like, I remember Shanahan had a back and forth with, who is that writer previously for Bleacher Report, a bigger guy?
Jason Cole.
Yeah. He asked some question and Kyle Shanahan gave, I guess you could say, a pointed response. I guess he had a little more fire in his answer as opposed to the other questions. But then it got taken on the social media train and people were just hopping on board. Well, oh my God, did you see what he said? Did you see what he said? And I remember sitting there thinking, I mean, it wasn't that contentious. I don't remember it being that bad with the way that he responded to it. But then you see it on video and you're like, was it really? I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird how that works out.
I think everything's overanalyzed these days because we have access to everything. Like back in the day, you're right, Stephen. It was quotes. It was like back in the day, I didn't give a shit about this stuff. I was just watching sports. I was like NFL Network. I watch it all the time, but they didn't really go in depth on like every single goddamn thing of the offseason. Like, yes, they did the combine and free agency and the draft, but like we overanalyze every little quote these days. And yes, when Jerry Jones calls out Micah Parsons for being injured last season when he's up for a contract extension, then yes, that's a very interesting quote. But there's some stuff where I'm like, you totally twisted the words of that. And that also is the product of aggregators, the Dove Kleinmans. Even, I like this guy. I think he's a little professional, or I shouldn't say a little professional. He is professional, but people will, he'll take stuff and maybe it's out of context. Ari Meroff, like I said, I respect him, but we analyze a lot that's said a lot with coaches these days. So I don't know. I think it's a little too much.
Too many emojis from Ari. I'll say it.
What's
too
up?
many emojis from Ari Meroff. I'll say it. He's up on the emojis, man.
Is his emoji game excessive?
It's too much.
Okay.
Some things don't need a fire emoji at the end of it.
Yeah. Well, I don't think Ian Rappaport needs to quote tweet everything. You could just retweet it. You brought that up years ago. I notice it all the time where I'm like, officially official. And I'm like, I know who tweeted that.
Yeah. Yeah. We didn't need that.
No, we did not. Okay. As far as everything else going on with training camp, you mentioned this at the top of the show, the top 5 most interesting training camps right now. And Miami Dolphins. I think what's interesting right now is what Tua said today.
Yeah.
Just not forgiving Tyreek Hill to an extent. Like really, that's the first time where I thought in a while, like, okay, I respect Tua. Like a year ago when he complained about Brian Flores and how he treated him, I think you and I were both like, all right, just let it go, man. Who cares?
Right.
His play at times, I respect the fact that he's suffered so many concussions and is willing to come back and continue his career.
Yeah.
But I respect him today for being like, you can't just end a season by saying I'm out and then expect all of us to forgive you like that. Like, no, it's going to be a process. So good on Tua to do that.
I like how they called him out for saying I'm out, but the domestic disputes that he's always involved in, that's water under the bridge. Not our business.
Yeah, I know. But do you expect anything else, man? I mean, like with the Browns a year ago.
It's not, because it isn't their business, really. As long as there were no charges filed. I guess I'm just trying to keep a reminder here. I mean, that's awesome that you recognized a reporter, Tyreek, for his workout videos, but we know what you did this April.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. God, how do I transition to that?
I know, right? I'm not going to forget.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. I think people give Tyreek Hill a pass on a lot of shit, but also,
well, literally, Tua passes the ball to him.
That is true. But also the way he acted at the end of the regular season against the Jets, I was like, there's no way he could come back.
Yeah.
And, whatever. People are upset after, a losing season, but that's when you say you're out and the way that he did it, it's like, oh, so are you trying to get paid this season? I think the Dolphins are kind of in a situation where the Niners were a year ago, where they have to basically justify all the contracts they've given out. And they've slowly done like a reset, a competitive rebuild, where they've traded away Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith.
But if it doesn't go well this season, unlike Kyle Shanahan, who will get the benefit of the doubt, I don't know if Mike McDaniel will, just because you see so many reports of guys not respecting him. And I think
Dysfunction.
yeah, exactly. And I think he's a really good head coach. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I don't know if he's a good head coach. I've had my questions about him as far as a leader of men, but he is a good play caller. I think all those guys under the McVay tree, I guess, are really good offensive minds. But yeah, as far as the leadership quality, I question that with Mike McDaniel. As far as the other shit shows around training camp right now, it's really the Bengals and the Cowboys. And a week ago, Thursday, TJ Watt got his contract. I don't think anybody was surprised about that. I talked about maybe it was risky to give a 31-year-old a absorbent amount of money, but he's worth it. I mean, when you think about him and his ability to force fumbles and get to the quarterback, if it's not Myles Garrett, it's him as far as the best pass rushers in football. It's a shorter term deal. It's what was it? 3 years, 121 million, 41 annually, 108 guaranteed. Yeah, well, you're not paying the quarterback a shit ton of money like Aaron Rodgers is making 50 million a year. He's making 19. You could get away with paying TJ Watt that. But now the Bengals and the Cowboys are in a weird position where, now we have to maybe eclipse that. And you're going to do that anyway with Micah Parsons. But Trey Hendrickson, the fact that the Bengals have waited so long with him, he's the same age, actually a little bit younger than TJ Watt. How do you not pay that guy? Now you can justify it by saying, well, we paid Burrow, we paid Jamar Chase, we paid T. Higgins. We're not going to value the pass rusher. But you really should, because the defense has been horrendous when all three of those guys had tremendous seasons a year ago. So I'm rambling, but your thoughts on how the Bengals and Cowboys have handled things right now with the media and their star pass rushers?
Well, it's on brand, isn't it? It's
Absolutely.
totally on brand. And the Cowboys are going to try to mask this up by having this explosive offense out there with Dak, and I can't even remember who their starting running back is. With
Miles Sanders, and they got rid of Rico Dowdle. Who's the other guy? They got that guy from the Broncos, Javonte Williams.
Oh, Javonte Williams. That's right. Talk about guys I forgot about. Trey Lance going to the Chargers. Forgot about that too. But it's just so on brand for the Cowboys and Bengals. I think the Bengals have just totally mishandled this situation. Not just with Trey, but with Shamar Stewart too. It's great that you're going to have this offense, and it's clear in the quarterback show that the offense is predicated on Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Those are your two most important players. But the defensive side is going to have question marks going into this year. And I'd love to put the Bengals as an AFC contender, but just with the way that they've handled that, and then looking at the defensive roster, I'd say other teams in the AFC are just more well-rounded. Like the Bengals can make some noise because Joe Burrow might be the best quarterback in the league on it if he's healthy. But as far as their defense, what's the old saying, man? Like offense entertains and defense wins championships. My God.
Yeah, no, I think that the way the Bengals are going about it, it's difficult because they've never really broken the bank for anybody. Like, you watch Carson Palmer's football life. The reason he got traded to the Raiders is because he was pissed off the Bengals never hired a GM. Like, the fact also, this is how disrespected the Bengals are. Not only did Shamar Stewart call them out during minicamp about how they're more worried about winning arguments than winning games, Shamar Stewart's agent has a quote out there saying, Duke Tobin, he doesn't know what the hell he's doing when it comes to offering Shamar Stewart a contract because it's out of his pay grade. Basically saying he's got to go ask Mike Brown for approval on everything. And I don't think it's a coincidence that you have two stubborn old men in the Bengals, Mike Brown, and Jerry Jones with the Cowboys that are used to doing business a certain way, being cheap and not paying their guys. Well, they could have done this a long time ago. Trey Hendrickson was asking for a contract a year ago, and you could have paid him less than what he's asking for now, probably. I think he wants Max Crosby money, and he should get that because he's led the NFL in sacks the last 2 seasons. It sounds like they were close to getting a contract done on Monday, and they still are lowballing him when it comes to the guaranteed money, which is the biggest thing. That's what everybody needs to realize. When these insiders tweet out the annual average, that's really just to justify the contract to make agents look good. It's really about the guaranteed money. That's what these players want. So, yeah, I think the Trey Hendrickson thing is getting ugly. I have no idea how that's going to end. They'll probably pay him. The Shamar Stewart thing, I got to be honest, I don't really know all the details. At first, I was on Shamar Stewart's side. But if it really is, and maybe I'm being too simplistic about this, but if it really is that he doesn't want to lose out on money if he gets arrested, then isn't that kind of an indictment on his part?
Yeah. Yeah. It's basically like you're not getting this guarantee if you get in trouble.
Well, I'm sorry. The Bengals, and this may have been a Marvin Lewis thing. You remember, Steven? Like, they had a lot of players that got arrested through the years. They picked up, but then again, a lot of troubled guys that they went out and got on their own volition, like Pac-Man Jones. Unfortunately, the late Chris Henry. Just a lot of guys with issues back in the day. I don't blame them for having that mentality. It's also hard to justify when you don't have that clause a year ago with Armarius Mims, your first-round draft pick. But also, Shamar Stewart, you're not going back to Texas A&M to get that 5th career sack. Come on, like, go make your money now. I don't know. Like, I don't know all the details, so it's hard for me to like tell this guy what to do. But at some point, you're coming across arrogant, and you're kind of looking like, kind of the reason why some people were hesitant to draft you in the first place. And I know Mike Brown is kind of downplaying it, being like, this is silliness. I don't know what's actually going on behind closed doors, but it sounds like there's blame on both parts.
Yeah, I know. I don't really ever like to side with ownership. I just don't. These guys are billionaires.
Yeah, that's fair.
Making hand over fist. But when he says something like, look, if a player just doesn't do, if a player does something unacceptable, I don't want to pay him anymore. If he gets in trouble, I don't want to pay them, and I don't want to be on the hook for it. And that sounds reasonable to me.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I don't know. Like, I mean, it's the reason that the CBA has a hard salary cap, or the reason they have partially guaranteed contracts, limited guaranteed contracts, whatever you want to call it, is because of the hard salary cap. Out of fear. Oops, I don't know why that popped up. Out of fear of complacency, and also because they didn't know about injuries. Never in that CBA do you think, it's because they might get in trouble.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it too. And you sometimes see it with football players. I kind of get it from his side. I always want to side with the player in this case. Like, yeah, pay that guy his money. But yeah, I might have to go with the Bengals owner on this one.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, I don't always want to be pro player because I think their demands are crazy sometimes. But then again, like, who likes to side with billionaires?
Yeah,
but again, sometimes teams are just trying to do good business, and I understand that at the end of the day.
Yeah.
As far as the Cowboys, I watched that press conference with Jerry Jones. And I know, different situation, obviously. My father, says things all the time. You ever, had a situation where your father said something and you were like, just stop talking. Just stop talking right now.
No. Yes. When my dad joined my fantasy baseball league with my friends once, and football league for that matter, and his team name was the Butt Pumpkins. So listening to him try to explain why it was the Butt Pumpkins, that's a moment I can remember. Dad, just stop. Stop talking. He didn't really give me much of an explanation either. He was just like, "They're the Butt Pumpkins. Pumpkins, the butts."
Yeah, it's cute.
Yeah, Butt Pumpkins.
I don't hate it.
He thought it was the funniest thing ever. He also had like one of the profile picture or whatever. It was just a big ass painted with a pumpkin on it.
Oh,
weird stuff, Dad.
Yeah, maybe Matt Mayoka and your dad would have got along.
Oh, I'm sure they would have.
Yeah. We love you, Matt. Yeah, that's how I felt watching Stephen Jones sit down with Jerry Jones when Stephen Jones basically handles all the contracts now. He's basically the de facto GM for the Cowboys, and Jerry Jones likes to be the face of the franchise. So when Jerry Jones is going on and on about how even if we sign Micah Parsons, doesn't mean he's going to play this season. He missed 6 games last year. Actually missed 4. Then goes on to call out Dak Prescott for missing games a season ago. And you can feel disappointed that your players weren't healthy when you pay them. But, I thought J.J. Watt said it best, where it's like nothing motivates players more than their owner calling them out right before the season starts, and they went to go to war for you, and you were upset because you didn't get your money's worth.
Yeah.
That's the price of doing business. And then he says something ridiculous like, when you give a 5-year contract, I mean, you never know what's going to happen. Your player could get run over by a car. And people are like snickering in the audience. I'm serious, guys. I'm serious. And it's like, and he's also like, have you ever given a contract to somebody and it didn't pan out for you? We sure have. Yeah. But you know what? You're the fucking Dallas Cowboys. I'm sorry, but like, would you rather go with some other slapdick instead of Micah Parsons? And don't get me wrong. I question if Micah Parsons should be the highest paid defensive player in football. But with his youth and his versatility, yeah, it's probably warranted. But at the same time, you can't go out there. Like, I don't know why it's so difficult to do this. Like, every year they wait so damn long, and there must be a reason. Maybe it's just Jerry Jones is that arrogant, or maybe there is a reason that their money doesn't kick in until September and they're not able to give out these contracts. Who the fuck knows? I just think it's annoying. Like, this is not going to go away. Like, this will be the most annoying storyline in training camps because it's the Cowboys. Micah Parsons is handling it surprisingly well. I definitely thought he would have held out or held in. He's practicing. And for being called out this offseason by a former teammate, DeMarcus Lawrence, that signed with the Seahawks, and said like you were all more interested in the podcast and your social media than, trying to be a champion. I think Micah Parsons probably took that to heart and said, all right, I'm not even worried about getting paid. If they want to pay me, cool. If not, whatever, I'll go someplace else. I'm going to practice with my teammates. So, yeah, Jerry Jones, he and Mike Brown are the typical old owners that are like, it's my team. I'm going to tell you what to do. I think you're worth this amount of money. I don't want to hear from your goddamn agents. Just play for me and shut up.
Very interested to see how that documentary goes that Netflix is airing, because I think there's a lot that Jones takes credit for, which has been debunked as far as turning the Cowboys from the depths of where they were at post towards the end of God. Why am I blanking on the coach's name? Tom Landry's career. Yeah, it went towards the end of Tom Landry's career and bringing in Jimmy Johnson and obviously the big trade with Herschel Walker. There's a lot I think that Jones takes credit for, and I'm very interested to see people come out and say, it wasn't him. Like, I wonder if it's going to paint him in the way that Patriots Dynasty documentary did, which is Robert Kraft is the guy who can do no wrong. And it was him and Tom Brady, and Bill Belichick was the evil head coach who tried to do whatever he could to, what's the word I'm looking for? What do pirates do whenever they're trying to create a mutiny against Robert Kraft? Like, that's how the dynasty came off, right? But I wonder if this is going to do the same thing. If this is going to be like a Jerry Jones love fest, because it is called The Gambler and His Cowboys, or if it's going to be more people telling the truth on Jerry Jones.
Yeah, if he signed off on it, I probably think it's going to be a suck-off fest for him. Yeah. Like, and I've seen enough documentaries on Jerry Jones where he's a visionary as far as an owner, but I mean, like a businessman, like he definitely helped the Los Angeles or the Rams move out of St. Louis to go to Los Angeles. He partnered up with Al Davis. They became good friends. That's funny because the more I watch Jerry Jones, and I have a ton of respect for the late great Al Davis, but he's turning into Al Davis at the end of his life.
Oh, for sure.
Where he says these ridiculous things at press conferences, and you're like, he's the owner. You got to let him do what he wants to do. But damn, is he just putting his mouth in his foot right now?
Yeah.
Or foot in his mouth right now. But yeah, like he was revolutionary in the fact that the league would have to do these deals with all these companies, and he branched out and be like, no, I want to get a deal with Pepsi on my own. I want to do a deal with whoever. So as a businessman, like, yeah, he was smart to build his own stadium, not relying on taxpayers or anything like that. But he's also the head coach, or he's also the owner to tell Jimmy Johnson after 2 Super Bowls, anyone could coach this team. So he's doing the same thing right now with Micah Parsons being like, yeah, we could pay him, but is he actually going to play? This is him establishing his dominance, and it's an old power trip.
What was Trayvon Diggs doing there?
Trayvon Diggs.
Or Trevon Diggs, however you pronounce it.
Yeah. God, I forgot about him. I mean, I haven't thought about him since that one season he had, and his cute son was all over Hard Knocks.
That's the thing, is like, I know he had one good year, but outside of that, it's mostly been injuries, right? I was just a little surprised to see. I guess he was just standing up there in solidarity with his friend and teammate.
Well,
but I'm like, what do you think you're going to be making top of the market quarterback, buddy? Like, what do you think's going on here?
I think he did because Jerry called him out too in the press conference, saying like, "There's a lot of guys we got to pay. You know, I think we're going to pay." God, I found his name already. Who are we talking about?
Trevon Diggs.
Trevon Diggs, Stephon Diggs' brother. Think I'm going to pay Terrence Steele? It's like, why are you bringing that up right now? No one asked you about those players. So I think he was standing up for Micah, but also he was like, my owner just called me out yesterday, so I need to stand up for myself.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. Like, look, just all you have to see is the evidence in front of you. He's getting a little older, and it's starting to become a detriment to the team, even though they're valued the way they're valued, which is really the most valuable franchise in the world. He's still mishandling everything with his players, and it just seems unfair. And again, this is a situation where I'm completely on the player's side.
Yeah.
Like, even though Michael Parsons has the podcast when he really shouldn't have the podcast, when sometimes he does a little too much chirping or doesn't really have like a goal with what he's saying and kind of backs off when people give him pushback for it. I'm still going to say I'm going to side with him, especially if his owner's speaking the way that he is about him.
No, definitely. Definitely. And then lastly, Terry McLaurin. I mean, I think that's just a simple one. Like, they should pay him. Like, with all these guys, they should pay him. Like, if Garrett Wilson's getting 32.5, I think that Terry McLaurin is a better wide receiver. I do.
Yeah.
And I know he's older than him, but he's the number one guy for Jaden Daniels. And I rather talk about that topic with Terry McLaurin than, God, like, I try to have politics stay out of this shit when it comes to sports. But seriously, Trump, like, you and I talked about this a week ago with, speculation that the Commanders will go back to the Redskins, and now Trump is demanding it.
Yeah.
Like, see, like, I like, it's not even about like if you're a Democrat or Republican. Like, why does his opinion matter? It's so annoying.
Yeah.
Like, it's not his business. You know why they changed the name? Like let's be real for a second. You think that the Washington, the football team, grew a conscious overnight, and we're like, hey, this term has been, terrible for Native Americans for, years. We got to change it. No, it was because their sponsorship was going to get pulled. So Trump would come in now and be like, I demand that you guys change your name back. Okay. Are you going to pay for I know he says he's going to take away the finances to build the stadium, but when FedEx Field takes their naming rights away, are you going to be there to help with that situation? Probably not. So if I was Josh Harris and the Commanders, I would tell Trump to fuck off because it's not your business.
Yeah, well, you can't because he's the most powerful person in the world.
Well, that will lead into our next topic.
That's what's scary about the whole thing. But we did get something that made me laugh out of this, not the name change, because I don't think they're going to go back to the name change. And the only reason he's bringing it up is because he alluded to it, probably got a response from a bunch of his followers who might be on the side of the team name thing, aka Clay Travis, who immediately posted a poll about it and used his followers on X as a way to get a gauge on whether people want to get the name change or not, which is more of an indictment on the people who actually voted rather than the poll itself. But clearly he saw something there, and then he put it into the atmosphere out of nowhere on his Truth Social account on a random Sunday night. But there was one part that made me laugh because the DC mayor pushed back and said, look, we're at the 1 yard line here with the stadium deal. Like, we're getting a city council meeting next week. We're trying to get approval. We're financing 2.7 billion of it. It's going to cost 3.7 because it's a whole ass stadium. It's a whole complex. Like, they're doing it like the A's are doing it. We talk so much about the ballpark. We never talk about the other 26 acres of land that they're going to be on the hook for because they want to turn it into something completely different. But the mayor said, yeah, we're not focused on the team name. But then she also added this little thing, and I couldn't help but it made me laugh. And I had to read it verbatim on KCBS, and it was so hard to not do a Trump impression because it just you can hear it in his voice. Because she said, "This is what I believe. I've had the opportunity to speak on a couple of different occasions with the president about this site and about our team, and I could say this without equivocation. He is a Jaden Daniels fan, and he said himself and the presser we were at that this is probably the best site of any site I've seen for a stadium. And I have to think that's what I've heard him say, and that's what he'll stick with."
Yeah.
I just love picturing him looking at an empty lot and just saying, seen a lot of empty stadium sites, seen a lot of buildings demolished. This is the best site I've ever seen for a stadium site. I'm not just saying that.
I've seen a lot of smoldering holes. This hole, beautiful hole.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of demolitions. Seen a lot of them. I can't stumble over the impression when I'm doing it. Now I'm just losing confidence and I'm done. Yeah, it's the best site I've ever seen. Like what? So he doesn't care about the actual stadium. Like he just cares about appeasing his followers. And also, he's trying to throw us off the scent of Epstein.
That too.
So there's that. And it's just any piece of news to try and take over in the mainstream media.
Well, case in point, switching over to television and politics a little bit. Stephen Colbert announced last Friday night that the late night show on CBS is going to be canceled for the first time in 32 years. Not that they're going to replace him with anybody else, but the show is going away. And I grew up on late night TV. I'm sure you did too, Stephen, where, that was comedy. Like you would watch David Letterman or Jay Leno or Conan. My personal favorites were Conan and Craig Ferguson. Love those guys because they were unconventional. It really didn't matter about politics. Like they always made fun of Bush. Like I grew up with that. It's different today. It's done with a little more, like you're trying to stand up for something. And I totally get that. I understand why people could be tired of it too. But Stephen Colbert announced that the show's going away. And he also brought up the fact that, a couple of weeks ago, CBS had to give Trump, I think, $16 million for a defamation suit for what happened with 60 Minutes. I don't know what the whole you probably know better than me, but what was the whole interview based on?
Supposedly that it was an interview with Kamala Harris, and that they edited this interview to make it sound slanderous against him, even though they didn't really edit too much, and they requested the release of the unedited footage. And part of that settlement is that they demand CBS releases the uncut versions of every interview, not live because they got to make it for TV, but they have to release the uncut versions, the uncensored versions online. And that was a request that was part of the settlement, which I'm actually okay with. I'm fine with that. I think they're going to realize how boring it is if they don't make cuts to it.
Yeah. Has anybody ever worked in television before? You know how painstakingly arduous that is to cut all that footage?
Yeah. Yeah. So they think there's something there to make Kamala sound smarter, I guess, than they think she is, even though Kamala is very smart in the first place.
Well, by the way, another infamous CBS interview that happened a couple of months ago. Now we'll get the full extent of the Jordan Hudson interview with Bill Belichick.
Right. Exactly.
But you know what? We don't need that. Like I believe in journalism where we don't need all the details of an interview. Like if it was doctored to a certain extent where they're covering something up, then yes. Regardless of all that, Stephen Colbert called out his company, called him out and talked about how they're catering to Trump, and this will, it basically is showing the kind of the death of freedom of speech in some way on television, where the commander-in-chief can tell everybody, like, I don't like this, you're going to go away. Now, do I believe that Stephen Colbert and his show got fired because of Trump? Yes. But also, I think the reality is the rationale they gave was the show is losing $40 million a year. And is that excessive? That's probably like an exaggerated number. But at the same time, could they save a shit ton of money by having that show go away? Yeah, they could. Like this is what happens. This is what happened with media companies right now, is they're losing money. And I think that the art of broadcast television is slowly dying. I think that you're not going to see a lot of late night TV shows anymore. So is it cheaper to just show reruns of Young Sheldon at night as opposed to putting on a live program at 10 o'clock at night Eastern? Probably, yes. So I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if Jimmy Fallon, if Jimmy Kimmel, if those guys lose their shows as well, because just the audience for that. And I know that the ratings show that it was doing well. But at the same time, just financially, we're streaming now. We're listening to podcasts. It's happening in the radio industry. You just saw it last November. Tom got fired. Tom Tolbert got fired because my company, Cumulus, was losing money. That's the facts. It wasn't the ratings. It wasn't because Tom wasn't a good host. It was because the company wasn't doing well financially.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what they do. They hire me because they can save money on that stuff. That's the truth.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing right now at CBS, I believe, where for years, like, you know why Fox never had a late night TV show is because they did okay ratings and enough to justify not putting anything live on there. They're able to put reruns of The Simpsons and Seinfeld on. You know, now I think that's going to be the norm. Is you're going to see NBC, Fox, CBS, ABC not do live programming at night because it does. You know, all that shit probably go to streaming. You probably will not have live late night talk shows, and that sucks.
Well, sure, but I don't agree that this was a reason for, or I don't agree that Colbert's show was cut for financial reasons. $40 million is chumps change to CBS. Like, come on, it's CBS we're talking about. They're not cutting it because they're losing money. They're cutting it because Colbert speaks out against the current administration, and they've been strong-armed into making this decision. Like, the money thing is just a cover-up. That is just trying to rationalize this. I don't disagree that event. I think we all knew that. Like, I'm not going to sit here and act like I have some affinity for late night television. I wake up at 3 a.m, for God's sakes. I can't watch late night television. And Colbert, I haven't watched any of that. Like, the only late show I've watched is Jimmy Kimmel's video clips when it wasn't even him hosting. It was Chris DiStefano, who was the comedian filling in for him, the guy from New York who filled in for him for a couple of days, and it made me laugh. But I think we all kind of knew the end was near for these late night shows because they probably weren't getting the ratings and weren't getting money. But I find it very hard to believe that money was the reason for Colbert's show and the late night show in general getting the axe. I just have a hard time believing that.
So do you think that they just had an issue with him and that's why they canceled the show?
Yeah. Yeah.
Then why not?
2 weeks ago, there was something that happened where he spoke out against the administration in private, and then all of a sudden the show's canceled.
I don't doubt that for a second. I totally believe that it probably made their decision that much easier. But why not just replace him then?
They don't want any sort of late night show. They don't want
exactly
because they don't want any. No, it's not because of the money. It's because the current administration does not want any late night host going on there speaking whatever quote unquote lies they feel like they're forging out there.
I think that plays a factor, but I do think it is a sign of the times as well.
Sure. I mean, they were getting phased out. I just have a very hard time believing that money has anything to do with it when you see these big time networks signing billion-dollar deals to broadcast sports.
Well, but that's a different deal, Steven. I mean, they profit off of that.
Sure. I still have a hard time believing that money's an issue. I'm just going to say that. Like, you're not going to convince me otherwise.
No, that's fine, dude. I mean, I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm just saying, like, CBS, Fox, NBC, all those networks will gladly pay billions of dollars for football because football is the number one. I'm sorry, it's the number one thing in America. Sure. Late night talk shows don't do even close to what those companies do, or those shows do. Even like, I know some people are gonna be like, well, they could cut a check for Matt Stone and Trey Parker for South Park for $300 million. Yes, because South Park does enormous ratings, not on Comedy Central anymore, but for streaming for Paramount Plus. That's what this whole thing led it. Like, it's a whole weird merger between Paramount Plus and Skydance, and they were holding up the premiere of South Park, which is happening, I think, actually right now. And I'm sure if Matt Stone and Trey Parker wanted to take their services someplace else, every streaming platform in America would have been like, we'll gladly pay you $400 million. Instead, CBS is like, whoa, 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 we're not going to lose out on that. So, yes, I agree with you. I hear you. It is shady as fuck. And it probably, most of it is not because of money. But when you're a company and you can look at your spreadsheet and say, we can save money this way, just even if it's a little bit, they're going to do it.
Sure. I just didn't think now would be the time.
Yeah, because I don't like saying all this stuff because I love late night. I love late night talk shows. Do I love the interviews? Yeah, but I love Conan. I love Craig Ferguson because it was kind of like a podcast where they didn't really give a shit about promoting some new movie. They ripped up the cue cards and had a funny conversation with somebody. There were bits and it was just pure comedy. Did I enjoy Stephen Colbert a little bit more when he was a character on the Colbert Report? Yes, but I don't think he should have lost his job or his show. Do I think he's going to land on his feet? Absolutely. But yes, the circumstances are fucked. I'm not going to deny that. But I do think you're going to see more late night shows go away.
It does make me it makes me existential when I see something like this, because like when you go back in the history of the late night show and you hear, like, you haven't mentioned like the pioneer of all this stuff, which was really Johnny Carson was, but then David Letterman just brought a whole new thing to it where you just hadn't seen that on TV before. And I don't think you and I can really speak to that because we weren't, teenagers in the 80s. Maybe some of our listeners can speak to that, but it makes me existential in that, are we ever going to see anything in our lifetime where we're just so wowed by it because we've never seen it before, and that thing has nothing to do with some version of automation? Like, you know what I mean? Like some form of AI, it's like, whoa, self-driving cars, never seen that before, and it's like, that's something maybe I can remember, but I don't know if I like self-driving cars. I'd rather have someone be in control of the wheel. I trust some drivers rather than some random robot with cameras.
Absolutely. You'll never catch me in a Waymo. I'm sorry. Like, I went to Austin and they have those things now. I'm not getting a Waymo. I've seen too many things in San Francisco where that car gets parked at a red light and there's a line of cars behind them because the thing went crazy. Not me.
It's just late night shows. It became like this tradition, this household tradition.
Yeah.
And I wonder if we're ever going to get that with anything that doesn't include like artificial intelligence or some form of whatever's automated. It's like, hey, we'll get that pizza oven from Back to the Future too, and we were never the same after that. Like, what's next? It makes me sad. And I think like we like you and I think we could speak to not so much the Late Show. I think the rise of YouTube. I think the rise of social media. I think we were right there at the center of it, remembering the early YouTube days when, Epic Mealtime was like, what the hell is that? Guys making a lasagna out of 1,000 Big Macs and 2 liters of Big Mac sauce? What? But like now, and it's just kind of old, I guess. But you get my point.
I actually am not even familiar with that, but I know of it. But like when YouTube came out, like this about me. Like, I'm an old soul. Like, I love traditional shit. So like I love a lot of stuff on YouTube, but like I love the classic format of a late night talk show. Do I love that we're able to do this, or McAfee is able to do his thing? Yes, it gives opportunities for more people. But yeah, like I was obsessed with the Conan versus Leno thing because I was a Conan guy. So I was very interested in the history of late night talk shows and how Letterman got his spot and the rivalry he had with Jay Leno. Basically, they made that show for David Letterman, and he rivaled Jay Leno, a show that was on for years, an established commodity in the Tonight Show that he rivaled because he was that fucking good and got basically shafted and not getting that job. So I never was really a David Letterman guy myself, but I respect the man immensely because so many comedians revere the man.
Yeah.
And for his show to go away because, the next guy in line made a couple of jokes about Trump or the company, I think is ridiculous. Not to
Yeah.
mention, yes, it is. It's just sad. Like you could probably change the format of that show and keep them around, but to see that potentially go away 100%, like I still wonder if we're gonna have late night news. Like, do people watch the news as much as they used to? Older people do, but what I've learned in media, I'm sure you've learned this too, is if you're 55 and up, advertisers don't care about you. So I wonder what that's going to be. Like, are we just going to have news updates on our phones? Is it going to be just YouTube clips? That's how we get our news? I don't know. But the traditional format of television is dying. And also, to your point of what you were talking about, Stephen, creativity is dying as well.
Yeah, sure. I don't know about the news one. I mean, that's a whole nother thing in of its, like, I don't know. When I'm skipping over the news right now, I'm like entrenched in a 3-hour interview with Channel 5's Andrew Callahan and Hunter Biden, who's done his first log form interview, and he never talks. I don't know if you've heard anything about Hunter Biden. All you've heard about is his laptop and the fact that he's done crack cocaine, and and it's crazy because you hear just so much about this, but what you don't hear is how smart and articulate he is, and how whatever was on this laptop, which wasn't a laptop, it was a hard drive, not a laptop. They just said it was a laptop. All these little conspiracies about him, he goes through it in this 3-hour interview. And I'd like to think that would be the format. Like, that's my favorite. Andrew Callahan is like my favorite news guy, besides all those at KCBS. Like KCBS more, we don't do like the CNN or MSNBC or Fox News stuff where it's almost treated as like, kind of the same version of sports talk radio, where you truly like share your opinions and you have roundtable discussions and you do all these different things. KCBS does a little bit of that, but what we really try to do is just give the facts and, give the actual news, confirmed news that you don't really get on a lot of platforms. But one of my other favorite news guys is Andrew Callahan, who started with All Gas, No Breaks, just kind of interviewing crazy people at parties. And now he goes to different rallies, different protests on both sides. And what he does, his interview style, his interview technique, is he's non-judgmental. He's empathetic to whoever it is. And no matter how insane, how crazy this person might come off as, he just lets them speak. And I think that's really, I wish that's the direction news would go, and he's clearly knowledgeable too, where we just kind of let people speak their opinions without kind of fighting back on them constantly. I wish that would be the direction news could go in.
Yeah, we'll see. I question the life of news as well.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I think we're going in an unprecedented time where media is going to change drastically, where it's just going to be all digital. Like you saw today, ESPN's going to take over NFL Network, and that was in the works for a while. Like, I knew NFL Network was going to be bought by a company when I worked there, but now it's going to be all basically digital. Like, you'll have a streaming platform, and Red Zone, all those guys. Like, I don't know what's going to happen with Rappaport or Tom Pelissero. They're really going to work with Adam Schefter, their rival for years. I don't know. Bottom line is just the way that we consume media is drastically changing, and I don't know if it's for the better, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
Some aspects of it are, but very different. All right. Lastly, before we get out of here, very sad news yesterday. The Prince of Darkness, Ozzy Osbourne, passed away at the age of 76. I think it was 2 weeks ago, Stephen. Correct me if I'm wrong. When he performed in Birmingham, you could tell he was in bad health. He was sitting on a throne. It was pretty badass. But not surprising. He was in bad health for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
And, kids our age, not really kids anymore, but people our age, probably grew up with Ozzy Osbourne as the guy from the Osbournes, the reality show with his wife Sharon and the kids. Very entertaining. That wasn't the real Ozzy Osbourne. It was funny watching him, yell Sharon and eat burritos. But Ozzy Osbourne is basically the godfather of heavy metal. It's him and Black Sabbath back in the day. There is no Judas Priest. There is no Metallica. There is no highly controversial Grammy Award-winning Jethro Tull for best heavy metal album. Yeah, like so many songs. Like I personally love The Wizard. I think that's my favorite Ozzy Osbourne song. Excuse me.
Yeah.
I mean, so many. Like the intro for War Pigs is incredible. I saw yesterday people posting T-Pain's rendition of it. I think Jack Black's rendition of it is amazing. Basically, just you respect the hell out of the man for what he meant to rock and roll, like a true rock and roll icon. And at the same time, his stories are badass. I'm sorry, like you could say like such vile behavior, but the fact that this guy pissed on the Alamo and bit the head off a bat, that's badass. So, yeah, rest in peace to Ozzy Osbourne, man. He's a true rock and roll icon.
Certainly is. And growing up in a British household, I can't
Yep.
exactly say he was the most revered figure.
Really?
Oh yeah, my parents didn't like him.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, because they just looked at him as an insane druggie. They weren't really big Black Sabbath fans, but I was. And if you go back and listen to Paranoid, it's just insane that they came out with that album. And The Wizard's on a different one, but I think Sabbath's Bloody Sabbath is just one of the all-time greats. Paranoid's the one that gets a lot of recognition because it's just hit after hit after hit that are all being used. I mean, we used Iron Man to open this thing up. It's on that one. Obviously, you just mentioned War Pigs. I think that opens up the entire album. And obviously Paranoid's on there too. But Sabbath Bloody Sabbath is they're just on another level. And it is sad because you did lose an icon. Although, Derek, I'll say this.
Yeah.
I think just as someone who thought that this could have been possible for the last 20 years, I just can't believe it's 2025 and we're talking about this. I know. I'm good for him for living out as long as he did, because he definitely lived life to the fullest, where probably not a lot of people who did some of the things that he did would live till they're 76.
No doubt. Like he and Keith Richards, the fact that they're still alive and consumed as many drugs as they did, and barely like when they were alive, or when Ozzy was alive, Keith Richards still with us, they barely can talk because they partied so damn hard.
Yeah.
And you gotta respect that, even though like it's not good for your health. Like Cope was telling me the story yesterday. I didn't know about this. He was kicked out of Black Sabbath because he got high too much. And his reaction to them was, really? I get high too much? We all get fucking high. But he had his own issues. And Sharon Osbourne, I remember her crying on her talk show because she was so upset with Ozzy, couldn't kick the habit of doing drugs. It was a sad thing. Yeah. But he was entertaining. No doubt he was. And even his solo stuff, like Crazy Train, like if you're a sports fan, you grew up going to stadiums, like Raider fans grew up, going to games and hearing Iron Man or Crazy Train. Like that's what Tom Brady, his whole career, he ran out of the Gillette Tunnel, but to that song. So yeah, like I think he transcends age. Like even if you're a young kid, like you heard his songs. So yeah, it's sad, not surprising considering the life he lived. But yeah, whenever an icon like that passes away, you gotta give props.
Let's also remember Goldmember. Boobs.
Yeah, boobs. Do you even remember the first time
I fucking feel like I'm fucking obsessed with fucking boobs.
Have you seen Little Nicky, the Adam Sandler movie back in the day?
Yeah.
That's the first time I learned about Ozzy Osbourne. Was he has a really bad cameo at the end of that movie where he bites the head off a bat. It's the CGI looks terrible. But yeah, like he's just a badass. And yeah, I don't know what else to say about him. I think that he's completely awesome. And yeah, whenever a guy like that passes away, like you saw the tributes last night, Dave Matthews did a fantastic rendition of Changes. This is going to last a while, where he was that revered amongst the music community. It didn't matter if you were into rock or heavy metal. I think everybody loves Ozzy Osbourne. I remember Busta Rhymes covering Iron Man on one of his songs. So yeah.
There was a DVD that my parents had, and it was the Queen's Golden Jubilee concert. It was for celebrating her 50th year on the throne. And they had a bunch of British icons in there. And yeah, I remember Ozzy Osbourne being one of the guys to perform there. And it's just funny to imagine that Ozzy Osbourne is the one performing at the Queen's 50th Jubilee. The Queen was gone by that point. Queen was gone. She left. Prince William and Prince Harry were enjoying it when Prince Harry was really still a part of that family. I don't know if he is anymore or not.
Right.
Like Toby Flenderson.
What?
Just in the office. Just in the office. Oh, look, man, it's going 2 hours on this podcast.
Yeah, I know.
When Michael Scott like made that messed up joke about Toby, he's like, Toby is in HR, so he's not really a part of our family.
Okay.
And Toby's also divorced, so he's not really a part of his family.
That's a great line.
So
I
messed
knew
up.
I knew the name Toby, but Flenderson caught me off guard. But yes, Toby Flenderson from The Office.
Mhm.
Appropriate analogy there, Stephen.
Thank you.
Rest in peace to the Prince of Darkness, Ozzy Osbourne. All right, everybody, this has gone on for 2 hours, way too long. We'll be back on Sunday, if that's cool with you, Stephen.
Yeah, man.
All right, we'll do it at 11. I think Happy Gilmore 2 is coming out this weekend, so I'll probably check that out and review that.
Lovely.
Yeah, why not? Or should like really like it is coming out, or like really like I don't want to do that.
No, really, I said lovely.
Oh, lovely. Okay. Yeah, I'm a little skeptical about it, but yeah, we'll
Sure.
see how that movie turns out.
Eric, it's gonna suck. You know that, right?
Yeah, I know.
It's just like Happy Gilmore's amazing, but have these sequels ever worked out?
Anchorman 2, but that's a little different.
That sucked.
It did not suck.
Yes, it did. You're the only one I know who likes it.
It's hard to say that sucked. It
Yeah.
still was entertaining.
I guess it's just
Zoolander
these
2 sucked.
Well, the ones where they had a plan with the sequel, that's fine. But these ones that just are here to more celebrate it, hey, let's just make a sequel to celebrate the movie that was, they've
Yeah.
always stunk.
Yep. No, I'm with you on that one. All right, everybody. We will be back on Sunday. Hopefully, I feel like I'm getting sick right now from my weekend in Austin. So hopefully my
Weird.
voice. Yeah. Did this sound bad?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I know. Well, hopefully I get a good night of sleep and I'm better by tomorrow. All right, everybody. We will see you on Sunday to Rock a New Era, to Ernie One, to AJ Cruz, to Pat H. I think I saw it here. Maybe I'm wrong on that one. All right, everybody. We will see you on Sunday. Or Dom Peralta. Steven, say what you always say.
It is just our opinion, man. You